So let's talk about the war at home. So what's happening in the United States? And much like what we've seen in the previous wars, there's an opportunity here for the non-white populations in order to enter into situations where they hadn't been allowed access before because of white supremacy. So we can see here the war at home is going to allow opportunities for women, African Americans, Mexican Americans, Native Americans, and others. But these are the kind of a couple of the big core categories. Women are going to be able to enlist. There's going to be the Women's Auxiliary Corps, the Women's Accepted into Voluntary Enlistment Services. That's Army and Navy. Get it, waves. The other branches also have various elements of this. They're not going to be in combat, but they're going to be able to participate with the military and service roles. More importantly, back at home, all of the men are leaving the employment sector, so women are going to be able to move into traditionally male occupations and help by participating there. 8 million are going to enter the workforce during the year, during the 4 years of the World War II. The United States set up a propaganda campaign. We call it Rosie the Riveter, right? Rosie here, where is it? There it is. Rosie the Riveter was trying to make male occupations look like it could be combined with feminist mentalities, right? So women could be strong now. They could work in male occupations. 8 million are going to be entering the workforce. After the war, they're going to be expected to go back into the home. A few million of those are going to be able to stay in the workforce. And between World War I and World War II, women are going to get a taste for working outside of the home. And this is going to help encourage the later feminist movement. Now, African Americans are interesting during this time period because they are going to have this conflict because they're being asked to join a racially segregated military with Jim Crow segregation at home, but they're going to be asked to go fight the racist, evil Nazis over in Germany. So there was a very real question, should African Americans support the military in World War II? And what eventually works for many of them was referred to as the Double Victory Campaign. African Americans will be patriotic Americans. They'll go fight in World War II. They'll defeat the evil racist Nazis and Adolf Hitler, but they're going to also come back home and work to try to end racism here in the United States. And if you remember, after World War I, when African Americans came home and pushed for rights, there was this racist backlash. We call it the Red Summer of 1919. There's the Tulsa race massacres in 21, and a rebirth of the Ku Klux Klan. So this is not something that was taken lightly. We can see also during World War II, there is a continued effort towards that Great Migration. African Americans moving from the South up into the North. They wanted to get into Northern industries, work in those wartime jobs. They were segregated at the time, and an African American leader named A. Philip Randolph is going to threaten a march on Washington. Similar visuals to what we're going to see later with the I Have a Dream speech march. And that threatened to march on Washington convinced Franklin Roosevelt to desegregate the wartime industries. Now, African Americans are still fighting in segregated militaries, and at first they were not allowed to have combat roles. Later, they will be allowed to have some combat roles, and people like the Tuskegee Airmen were going to prove the worth of these African American units, which is eventually going to lead to the integration of the military, but that integration doesn't happen until well after World War II. Mexican Americans are also going to face discrimination during this time period. What's interesting is all of those Okies, all the people, the white populations were joining the military. So there was a need for migrant laborers, migrant farmers in the Southwest, and the United States created something called the Bracero program, which encouraged immigrants from Mexico to come into the Southwest and become those migrant farmers. 70,000 Mexicans are going to legally come in through the Bracero program. Others are going to come without being documented. And this is going to lead to a great deal of racial prejudice, both between immigrants and the Mexican Americans, people born in the United States, and the white population that saw themselves as being forced to participate in the war. This is going to lead to something known as the Zoot riots, where Mexican Americans who would wear Zoot suits, these kind of large flashy outfits to go out dancing and partying, they are going to be targeted by white sailors who were on leave in San Diego because they were seen as the Zooters were seen as un-American. So there is some racial prejudice there. And Native Americans are going to fight as well. They're going to be worked into integrated units, so they're not segregated like the African American population. It was some work for them. It was work for them, so they participated. Sometimes they didn't feel like they had a choice. And there's going to be a group of them, particularly the Navajo, who were code talkers. They would be able to talk to each other on the radio, and their language was so foreign to the Germans and others that it was kind of like they're talking in code, and the code wasn't broken the entire war. So there's a lot going on here at the war at home.